Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the day 2 of the TING Season 3 Open Finals. We're at the Corsair headquarters once again, and that was a mouthful, actually, to start the day.
You got through it.
I did
And
get
then you
through
messed
it.
it up by saying it.
True. Welcome to BaseTradeTV, right? So we'll be getting things going here in a little bit. Right now, we do have Snute and aLive warming up. They've kind of been practicing, playing, they're doing their vetoes, all that good stuff. We'll get the show going in a bit, but we want to talk a little bit what happened yesterday for those who may have missed it. And I will say, probably if you're like, oh, Rifkin, I'm only here for the games. I don't care about anything else. You're probably safe to come back in about 10-15 minutes. Take like a nice break, get your food ready, and enjoy the games when they come back. Real quick note, though, once again, we do have Nathanius. He'll be observing to start, but we'll be rotating casters again today, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that yesterday. I know I had a lot of fun with it. I hope you guys had a lot of fun with it. Did you have a lot of fun with it?
No.
Oh.
I
Well,
only like casting with you, Rifkin. Oh.
Oh, okay. But no, yesterday was weird. We had, I think, some unexpected games, to say the least.
Well, the aLive Gumio series actually cannot be explained, so I don't think we should try.
Yeah, the subscribers are going to be happy to get their replay back, so you can kind of go over and figure out what
On a
happened.
base trade. If I want to come back on a TVT, just watch Gumiho. He's actually watching himself for his warm-up, I guess. He was actually probably watching himself and just being like, look at that amazing smart move I made. Like, I'm so good at this game.
Or he's like, I
"Nice."
also don't understand what happened yesterday. I got to figure that out.
How did I win?
Nah, Gumio and aLive had a really fun TVT. It was really weird, but ultimately Gumio did, of course, win, so he's going to be playing in the finals today against his opponent, Neeb. Now, of course, there's a lot of conjecture going on here. A lot of people saying, like, what if Neeb gets, like, aided by Gumio in this best of 9? Because there's that
Aided.
consideration
Oh.
that Neeb did lose to Gumiho 3-0 in that round of 8.
I was like, that hurts some math a little bit. Thank you for that. But yeah, they like this. It's funny though because didn't you talk to Neeb and actually said he felt maybe it wasn't you. Maybe it
No,
was
I did.
someone.
I did.
Oh,
So
okay.
Neeb, I guess, like he's just chalking that up to like an off day or whatever you want to label it as.
Yeah.
And we'll see how he fares in the finals. But it is worth noting before we talk too much about Neeb and Gumio that the first match we cast today will be the bronze place match. It is going to be Snute versus aLive, so TVZ. I actually don't remember off the top of my head what the prize pool. I know last place is
There was a
250.
500 difference.
I think it's like 250 and 750 for
Yeah.
prizing. So a fair amount of money on the line. I mean, nobody who flew out here really had to pay for their flights or their hotels. They just come to win some money, and it's you walk away with $250 for 2 days work. That's not bad. That's really not bad.
Yeah. Plus, you just hung out with everyone that's cool and had some Korean barbecue, of course, and you know, it's a fun time. So totally worth.
Yeah. I think though, for these guys, we've talked to Snute about this a bunch. We've talked to several players about it a bunch. The money's not always the thing. I think when you're in an offline finals, it's definitely a factor. But it is kind of just like, can you win? Are you like measuring yourself and your own worth? Like,
Yeah.
well, how's that going to go? I got to tell you guys before we get into it, like without even making predictions, I am probably rooting. It's tough because we got two cool stories with these guys. Snute is the European and the foreigner and all this stuff, and we really do
Yes.
love Snute. But at the same time, you've got this really cool dynamic with aLive, who has played in everything, all the finals we've hosted, Olima leagues, well,
Everything.
just run by Oli Moly, then BTSLs by us, Corsair Cups by us. Like he is
Yeah.
in everything, whether it's on Korea, Europe, he's playing and he's winning. So it'd be kind of cool to see him take the 3rd place instead of 4th place here.
Sure, yeah. Well, I expected him to do actually like a lot better versus Gumio, which he was actually doing great versus Gumiho, just was like not quite ever crossing that finish line. So I would expect him to do well against Snute too here, but maybe he just like feels off.
Maybe. I don't know. Either way, though, he's been here for about an hour or so warming up. So
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's been pretty serious about it. Like Gumio's come over and talked to him, so
Yeah.
they're pretty good friends. So I imagine they're discussing some strategy.
actually, it's funny for a lot of the off stuff we've been doing, right? Like we've going out to barbecue or drinking together with all the players.
Yeah, sure.
aLive's always asleep in his room. He's like, and I like to imagine he's
Yeah.
like meditating, like at the same time, like prepping for the
Yes,
match or something.
meditating or napping, either one.
Yeah.
I mean,
At that time zone difference is probably pretty harsh. So I'm actually impressed that Gumiho doesn't
Uh,
seem to have been hit by it as hard. You
yeah,
know?
I feel like sometimes it depends on if they can sleep in the airplane or not. So like if Gumio was sleeping on the airplane, it's no big deal. But I'm not sure. aLive actually might just like being, off to the corner, doing very much.
I
so.
love naps myself, so I can absolutely
I-
sympathize.
I really do, yes. But I think that's it's a best of 5 for Snute versus aLive. And I'm pretty sure they've played before recently enough.
Well-
Again, like all these Corsair Cups that they play in.
Even if it's not that, like you can take the context of Snute versus aLive, Snute versus Keen, Snute versus like every Terran out there, and we see him either do
Huh.
really, really well and it's almost broken watching Snute play,
Yeah.
or sometimes he'll just flop over to like a 3-rack something silly, right? Or get caught being greedy with
3
drops.
racks. Oh, with Very Sweeper.
Yeah.
It's like no one does the Marine thing anymore. Yeah.
The 3-1-1 in that instance.
It's a build, man.
It doesn't exist. Don't listen to me, guys. This is like Bronze League logic here.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I mean, I'm not sure about their score against each other, but you're right. Like Snute just has amazing TVZ, and
Like I'll say in this series, if Snute gets to 80 drones, if he's on 4 bases,
Sorry,
aLive
80
is
drones.
he's like SOL type thing.
well, no, he's take the 80 drones, then he needs to make an army. Like that is his problem. He gets 80 drones, doesn't have an army.
Well, then you make spines as more.
There are a couple of games that Snute have played where he's at like 80 drones and he loses 30, but still survives. And you're like, well, that makes sense. Like that's fine.
I actually, as much as you want to joke about his macro though, I'm recalling games with aLive where he just threw in ghosts out of nowhere. Then he tried to do that like that mech and bio game. Like
Oh yeah,
he's
and, Proxima.
yeah, aLive's willing to go the
Nice.
distance in a
Playing
lot
it
of weird
weird.
ways.
Yeah, I mean Gumiho has always been the weirder player that everyone knew. I mean he was one that really loved his mech and his battle cruisers back in the day, and he would still do like these odd Hellbat things.
Yo, let's get a side screen battlecruiser high five real quick. Nice.
I don't even know what he did. Anyways, he is the weird player, but like aLive and apparently Keen as well. Like they talk to each other and whatnot. Like they do some weird stuff too. So there was like a Proxima game with pseudo mech bio that happened in TVZ, and that was pretty sick. But really, it just seems like if you're right, like if Snute gets to a certain point, it just like I don't know how you beat that. You're supposed to cripple him before then, or just be Byun, I guess, and like push him non-stop. I think you Thermal did a good job of that too, actually, in the map contest tournament.
Yeah.
But that's a little bit different, as I feel like historically map tests tournaments have gone a little bit more favorable to Terran.
And the 400s in general too. Like they've been.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, not in results, but in terms of like cool factor and like
Cool
what
factor,
we like
abuse.
watching and
Yeah,
abusing
sure.
the new things. Unfortunately, no new maps here. It's pretty standard stuff, and I think vetoes are pretty much underway. We know that they did at least remove 2 of the games, and they've got the first map picked, but we're still waiting for like map 2, 3, 4, 5, etc.
Yeah. So, still waiting.
But anyways, we are, like we said, doing recap stuff anyways. So so that's Snute and aLive, I think is going to be a really good series. Gumiho and Neeb, though, is going to be the interesting one because going back to that, for the grand finals, best of 9 first off is already weird. Not a lot of tournaments do best of 9s anymore. We've done best of 9 for TING Season 1, Season 2. Season 2 I don't think will ever be topped. Byun versus Solar.
It was pretty good. It was pretty good.
I don't remember what happened that I wasn't able to cast that.
You were in casts. So
That's right. That's when I had broke both my arms. Good
yes.
times. But I remember watching it is my point, though. And first off, good job.
Thank you.
Solo
try.
casting that. But secondly, it was crazy that went the distance. I think it's really hard. Like a best of 5, you can go to game 5. I say fairly easily. Best
Yeah.
of 7, okay, maybe. But like best of 9, you rarely see that go 9 games. So that was so sick. It's gonna be hard to top. But I think what's interesting is whether this is a game 5, game 6, game 9 scenario with Gumiho and Neeb. I think we're gonna get really interesting games out of it because on the one hand, Gumiho is good with wood mines. He's good with drops. He's good at drawing your attention away from like what you should be. On the other hand, Neeb's actually just like a really solid player who literally killed Kespa. So
Neeb
it's hard to
actually
compete with that.
is usually so solid. And he just looks like so, like the fluidity of Protoss when he plays it well is actually very impressive. But yeah, I think you were mentioning earlier that you expect to go like pretty like heavily one way or the other.
Yeah.
Like not a 5-4 basically, which I mean I don't think it's gonna go to an ace match either. I think someone's gonna find the trick basically to defeating the other one, and then it's gonna be like kind of difficult to come back. But that Beyond vs Solar series also was not supposed to be at all 5-4. Like I remember, well I was the only one casting, but everyone was still kind of in agreement because that was still the dominating era of Beyond. Like, nowadays he's not exactly dominating, obviously out of GSL so quickly and all that. But back then, this was like 5, 6 months ago. Actually, how long was it?
I want to say actually, probably closer to 6 if I had to guess.
Yeah,
Because it was summer when I broke
it was
my
summer,
arms.
yeah, exactly. Anyways, like Solar was like a good Zerg, but he wasn't supposed to be able to touch Beyond. Although he would have been the only one to touch Beyond. But I thought like maybe 5-2 in Beyond's favor. And actually Solar obviously brought it back to 5-4. It was an epic final game on a super long map, man. Apotheosis.
That really Zergy map too.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, well, Beyond might just be screwed here. And it was truly epic. So if something like that happens today, then obviously I'm fine with that, right? Like all 9 games, 2 maps replayed. I guess if that isn't clear for those who have not played. Like
yeah, so that'll be
longer
interesting
series.
too. We had to change formats a little bit because compensating for this is weird. Like you can't really set out vetoes ahead of time and be like, all right, 7 maps, and then pick the ones to repeat
and then
just in
veto
case.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is worth noting, while Snute and aLive have done vetoes for this best of 5, it is still going to be veto to 1, loser's pick beyond that for that best of 9 finals.
Yeah.
It'll be kind of interesting, though. I like the idea of loser's pick because there are some maps here that just really... There's always that one map in the pool nobody wants to play. But there's also players specifically, like maybe everyone's fine with Newkirk, but specifically Gumiho isn't or something, you know?
I was like, well, okay, so there's like, I know there's still a lot of talk about this map pool this season, as there always are, but I don't think anything's going to beat the fact that, like, Hydra had to play someone on Secret Springs.
Oh,
that
God,
map
I forgot.
was.
That was the map
like,
you could put like a barracks and a depot in the
tournament.
middle and like wall it off.
Yeah,
like,
I had the best man. I had the best push on that map too. But like it was just stupid, right? But he had to play it because it was a best of 7 finals. I don't think there's really that one. Like Paladino's kind of obnoxious, but.
Well, it looks like we're finally getting into the game, guys. So we're gonna be hopping into this first match in a best of 5. Everyone's finally ready and good to go. aLive versus Snute, starting off on Honor Grounds. Time successfully bought.
Nice. It's like we do this a lot for like every single community cast ever.
I know. Nothing compares to like casting when you've got like 4 hours of downtime between a best of 3.
Well,
like,
then you really just have to give up and take a nap.
Yeah, you really do at that point. But anyways, this is a best of 5. Best of 5. There we go. Of course, shout out to Nate. He's going to be doing the observing for these first couple games, and he'll tag in for some casting. In the top right, he spawns blue. He's coming from Korea, and he wants 3rd place. Ladies and gentlemen, it's aLive.
In the bottom right, as the red Zerg, he is Liquid Snute.
Now, I'm really glad these two got to play. I'm sad that it wasn't the grand finals because that's what I was pulling for, but I think at the end of the day, aLive and Snute have the coolest potential matchup of all 4 players here. A lot of this has to do with mostly Snute, I feel, on his Zerg versus Terran, but aLive is a nice standard player to match up against too. While he can do the weird things we described in the pre-show, he's less inclined, I think, to hit you with a 3-racks than even somebody like Beyond might be.
Yeah. That pretty much sums it up, I would say. And it is Honor Grounds as the first map, which would have been maybe problematic for that 3-racks Reaper. It's a bit of a gamble still, and of course it's in general a bit of a gamble, because if the Zerg player is very good at defending, well then you are like not ahead. But it's also a gamble if they get cross spawn. This is actually vertical spawn, which I'm sure that aLive's gonna eventually scout this and actually be kind of happy with it. Like pressuring on this map, even if you don't go for 3-racks Reaper, even just like a mid-game pressure. It hits so hard and fast. It's not quite Paladino sizes, right? But when they aren't cross spawn, and especially the way that Snute's probably going to expand, as he's done beforehand, he's already expanding out.
Yeah, it takes that 3rd base.
These Zerg players will like expand out continuously and not even bother like taking that natural pocket base for like so long. Like it's not worth getting dropped, I guess.
It's funny you bring that up because yeah, I've kind of forgotten about that dynamic where we'll see that not taking until even a 5th in some cases, but. Regardless of that, this is a great first scout with the Overlord, so he knows not to take that 3rd, if that is going to be his fear. But one thing to note is, regardless of what aLive opens with, Snute is one of these players who is he's not just inclined to, but he like more likely than not will go really queen heavy early on. So things like Reaper Pressure or Hellions, they just don't work as well against him in most scenarios.
Really well, like 11 queens, like a lot of.
Yeah, we've seen him go as high as 11. I think standards like between 7 and 9 for him, but
yeah,
not quite the 5 that we'll see other people be a little more stingy with. I like it though. This is Reaper already getting a drone kills, not too bad. Forces a build cancel, but Snute's keeping the Lings alive, which I like quite a bit. Speed's not close to being done, but he will want to have those up and running and not have to build more of them, because right now it's all about droning, droning, and droning.
Yeah. Yeah, very quickly Snute will get up to those 70, 80 drones, and it's just about getting that timing right so that he doesn't die to the follow-up push. Now it's a 2-1-1 from aLive.
This is a very old school
Very
standard.
Yeah, indeed. So you don't actually need to scout very much, to be honest, to know that this is coming. You can see the factory timing, obviously the 2nd barracks, but also like any amount of Marines. And Zerg players can typically tell what's going on and know the exact timing. So sure, there'll be a bit of a blip in the drones production for like that period of time, but it should just be right back to droning up to 80. Overlord is going to survive, actually, even though these Marines could have maybe gotten it a little bit earlier. They are going to die, as well as that Reaper speed has kicked in. I mean, that kind of sucks, but I think you still have enough for the double drop, and that's what's most important. Snute does, in fact, take that outer expansion again, too.
Well, so this is where that queen count becomes a little more important, because Snute, if for no other reason, like right now it's a bit low, and I'm worried about that. if you've got that drop coming, whether it's a 2-1-1, whether it's just Hellions, whether it's anything, at the end of the day, Queens will shoo that away. But there's no creep spread in the main, so there's a lot more like staying power for aLive.
There's only so many hatchers to produce Queens. Come on now.
I know, he's working on it, but I'm just saying, like, right now, we're not at that 9 count, so it is that moment of, like, well, let's hope he doesn't stop too soon.
He has another minute before this attack's really going to hit, and of course, Snute will know that. There are certain scenarios, especially with Beyond, I have to keep calling back to him, but he really is that guy that does it, where the 2-1-1, as standard as it is, actually still kills the Zerg in its first push, and that's just, like, not supposed to happen, but it does. It's the follow-up push, the one that's like the extra 2 medevacs, the extra 2 drop that usually really starts to tear a Zerg player apart, and that's going to be kind of the testing ground, I think, for Snute's TVZ, basically, or ZvT rather for him, and that's like, can I survive that stage? And if he does, then I think it's like definitely on aLive to try and win the game after that, because like Snute 80 drones with an army, not dying to drops is a beast.
So Snute's done something pretty important. He has started making links. Those Queens are still coming out 3 at a time now, but I like the creep spread he started spreading back towards his main. It's vision, it's that mobility. Queens are so slow off of creep, and if you're chasing medevacs, you need that extra speed. But I think this will be fine. A lot of players will die to this push. I really don't think Snute will. Even though those extra 3 Queens aren't out, there's already 5. As long as he focus fires down the medevacs, this will be an easy hold.
Yeah, he actually has the perfect number of lings here. He shouldn't really need any more, so he's already going back to droning and getting Queens. He's actually still going for a Roachborn, so I mean, he's been on speed links his entire time, and aLive might just, presume that he's going to go for Mutiling Bling. It's a hard style to play on undergrounds, though. Even if it's cross-spawn, it's still like, it's a smaller map that's got a lot of pressure points, especially if the Terran goes for tanks. And usually roaches are going to be the way to go. For Zerg players in Korea, it's actually maybe still Ling Bling Muta, but of course Snute, first of all, not Korean, but also big on the roaches, can play either style, but it's actually surprising seeing him swap over a little bit later to those upgrades.
Now those Queens were in position with to get pulled away at the last moment. Ling's running back in now. There's no easy detection for this, so that Widowmine is going to be a problem. He pulls away at the last second. Nice micro with that drone.
That was good compensation, but unfortunately his Lings to be over there protecting his Queens. 2 go down for any transfuses. They do manage to snipe a medevac, but still another Queen goes down. Drones are going to start going down. He did deal with the drop in the main base, it looks like, so 7 drones is not too problematic. Especially if he can get the medevacs out of his hair, then that's like the good amount of time where he just doesn't have to worry.
Yo, Spore Crawler high.
There we go.
Takes care of that Widowmine, but there's still Marines.
Yeah, he lost the Queen of Lings over here, so those 3 Marines are being surprisingly obnoxious. 1 Roach will take care of them, but that's 7 drones to 12 drones, but more importantly, just the amount of time it takes to actually clean this up and get back to his macro.
Yeah, but that's the thing about Snute. Okay, he's 12 drones down, but he's still like 12 drones up, you know what I mean? Like, he's so good at that drone count, but this is important because of the style he's playing. I like this. This is like standard Snute / Inertio. We're going to see Roaches, we're going to see Ravagers, we're going to see those fungal growths.
Right, the question is kind of how does he want to play it from here? Obviously, it's Roach is the way to go, but do you go for the Infestation Pit for the quick hive and like a super quick Ultras cavern, or do you go for the Infestors? Personally, especially on a smaller map, I think just going for the Infestors and getting those combo Curse of Vials is going to be the safer play than trying to reach to that hive, but sometimes it's you really don't know, it's up to their preference.
Well, medevac's load up and looks like aLive's not done giving Snute a break just yet, but he is unfortunately forced to load at home. A couple of awkward Lings try to run by, but he doesn't shoot them down. That'll sell this push just slightly. But I don't think for aLive it's going to be a question of what Snute's doing. The thing is, I really like Snute, but his builds aren't exactly secret. I think as well, when you're a foreigner that stands out as much as he does, especially against somebody who's playing in foreign cups all the time, aLive's got to know what this is going to be.
Yeah. And he probably knows the weak points of it as well. Until you have those Infestors, especially if you manage to kill any of their Queens early on, their weak point will be defending against drops. So this,
slow response.
Versus someone else who has only Speedlings and is about to have Mutalisk is a big risk. But against guys who only have Queens and then slow Roaches here, they still don't have their speed, then absolutely just keep on hitting that pressure point. Eventually you'll get that really nice 20 drone kill or cancel on the hatchery or straight up kill. I mean,
I wonder if he's gonna, if he said that Widowmine, he just throws some Ballad.
Yeah,
That'd be cool.
I think that's what he's thinking. I mean, you can get an Overseer. Player's done now.
I like the setup of aLive too, by the way. Snute's a little bit supply block from this, but he has been going out of his way to pick up Overlords when there's just nothing else he can do. I like that he still finds value in something even when it's nothing.
Yeah. Still no Infestation Pit yet for Snute. He is on his way to 2-2 along with aLive. I guess he just target fired. The drones actually survived, did go down, but that's still not too bad.
Oh, Queens left
more
out in the open like this.
Yeah, these are the creep spreading Queens that Snute's. I think he has still 1 or 2 extra that he's been making, but he just immediately makes 3 more anyways. So
it's funny though, because when you are going this composition at a Snute, I don't think minerals are your biggest problem. It really does come down to gas. So making queens like this isn't such a big deal.
It doesn't. I don't think so. I think it's actually just the time investment, right? Because like because he already lost queens, and to lose even more, he doesn't have those backup queens coming down and immediately place creep. Which like every trainer who's ever played TBZ knows like the most obnoxious thing is like I did my thing, I cleaned up the creep, and then I went back home to play safe, and then like you go back and it's like even more creeps. And like, well, what was even the point? That might be the case here. So it's gonna take actually a long time to get back up that ridge, which is gonna be a pretty important point once aLive stops dropping, but he's still dropping.
Yeah, Roaches and Ravagers, they can take a dogfight not too badly, but this is kind of tough with all these Widow Mines. No easy mode detection also means Snoot's got a split, takes a lot of splash damage too. I like that he tried to use that one Roach to the splash damage to the Medivacs. That was a really cool move. Unfortunately though, as you mentioned, the problem with this is splitting. Your army's slow, it doesn't respond quickly, and this drop does get in, kill a queen, and about 6 drones.
Yeah, it's pretty important that this is doing continual drone damage though, because like once Snute has the Roaches in every base and the lives drops aren't working, he is going to explode. But as far as it's happening now, like it's not being taken care of super quickly. It's not taking 0 damage. It's constantly 6, 6, 6, 4 drones, and he's still kind of stuck at 54.
Well, there's that problem, but the other one is that this is also stuck now in tech. He's on 2-2, a lot of Roaches, a lot of Ravagers, but no fungal growth, no Infestors coming up behind this.
I don't think so. The Widow Mines are going to help out a little bit too. Yeah, which they usually don't against Roaches, not too well. Even targets on the corrosive bio, the Ravagers. There we go.
This trade for Snute, though, still isn't too awful, but at the end of the day, he did lose so much more.
There's still a drop that actually caught his reinforcements as well, so that is actually more army supply for aLive here. And Snute, I don't know. I'm surprised to see him just stick on 2-2 Roaches. I mean, there are certainly like those pushes, and there are even all-ins back in the day where you did stick on Roaches and try to surprise a player that was assuming you're going for Infestors.
That is...
But it's just not working.
This is a doomy drop heading towards that main, and it might make Snute feel a little gloomy too. As the Roaches do race back in, let's not forget it's very easy for aLive to disengage off this. The Infestation Pit is finally coming down behind this too. Once he's got those fungals, these Medivacs do not get to escape.
I do wonder how this game is going to play out. So this drop is not going to work out as much as aLive was hoping for. He's going to have to pack up and go home. That kind of sucks. But the pacing of this game is a lot different than I think you would usually see from Snute. And aLive, obviously a smart guy, is probably practicing or studying Snute's. Is he going to get his hatchery? No, I don't think so.
He should be able to hold this, even with that Widow Mine being a threat.
5 Marauders. Okay, so he does save the hatchery, but yeah, aLive might not have expected him to play like this for so long. He might be actually even wondering where the Infestors are.
So while this went on, by the way, it looks like some of those Medivacs died too. So the Queens go down, that sucks, but getting the Medivacs for it's kind of worth it at this point.
Yeah, but in terms of the pace of the game, so usually like the problem for Zergs who are going Roaches and Ravagers, but well upgraded anyways, is that, eventually their 2-2 is cool and whatnot, they have more supply, but eventually like Bio 3-3 with like 20 Medivacs comes in and they're like, well, I guess your army's better than mine. Either that or like a lot of tanks, usually not Widow Mines. So aLive is going to have 3-3, obviously a lot faster than Snute, and the Infestors are just like barely making that time to defend, to help defend with that 3-3 push.
So I'll go back to something Nate was highlighting just a moment ago, and that is that Medivac count. It is like on 10 still, despite losing some, and it's high. He hasn't been able to kill any for the majority of this game. That's where these Infestors really come into play. Once aLive starts losing these Medivacs, this ends up being less ridiculous to deal with, because as we see, he's just continually picking up and getting away. So Fungal's not quite ready to go, and he loses all the Infestors.
No.
Sick focus fire out of aLive.
Those were so important, man. And 3-3 just finished for aLive. I'm not sure Snute's army is good enough to take this on.
Nah, especially, I guess, going back to that Medivac count, there's 12 of them zombie group. Each of these Marauders has a pocket healer.
Yeah, this is actually super perfect. The Roaches are going down. The Ravagers will fall very shortly after, and I think Snute might have been broken. His production is probably, he's probably getting a lot of Roaches right now. He had a decent bank, but coming out one at a time from all these hatcheries, I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty messy. None of the Marauders died. I want to point that out. Like, still sitting there on, like, it was 18, now 19. Like, this Medivac healing core was so crucial. Drop of the main looks like it was picked up and pulled away, but Snute still lost a pretty important mining base. There's no gold behind this. You can't play catch-up too easily. I think this is just a slow death unless he can start picking off these Medivacs. Those 3 Infestors he had were a legit chance to take aLive's army down a huge notch. Losing them all right away like that was devastating.
Yeah, he absolutely needed them to take on this bio, especially with the upgrades that they had. And definitely his mistake to leave them a little bit too far on the front lines without their fungals ready to go. And to be honest, even if he got the fungals, aLive still had this very strong push. GG. With a planetary, like coming up with his reinforcement line, like it was going to be non-stop pressure very quickly.
Well, so for me, that game was, I don't feel like Snute played that really badly or anything, but I think part of the choke of not getting the infestors out soon enough and then, like, maybe even losing that fight was there was so much going on. So kudos to aLive for constantly keeping Snute distracted, like, in every way possible.
And I really wonder if that affected Snute's game plan, actually, because the way that we do see Snute play 95% of the time, with like the 4 other percent being like maybe the occasional mutilating bling game, and like that is that 1% where he never gets an infestation pit despite going for roaches, and it's like that was the game. He just usually doesn't do that. So I do wonder if he was thinking maybe like aLive would like prepare for the infestors, like actually play to that style, so he wanted to rush him, like overwhelm him. Because who does like the roach overwhelms anymore, right? Like if Snute and Nurture are setting the trend, it's kind of more defend. But it wasn't enough.
I think part of it too, you got undergrounds with those spawns. That's not a map that I think Snute was going to be looking too forward to unless it was like maybe cross. So
it's true.
Now we go to Abyssal Reef. I think this was a much better map for his play style.
That is, yeah, I absolutely agree. Especially if you can get those wraparounds. Abyssal Reef actually ends up being my favorite map.
That's my favorite part of this map.
Yeah, I like everyone was pretty hestant going in, like, and I was as well. I saw like the chokes and the ramps, and I was like, damn, Terran's gonna have a fun time here. And it's true, they do. But the Zergs are really compensating very well with those surrounds and run bys.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, starting off in game number 2, to the bottom right, we have the red Team Liquid player. Give it up for Snute.
In the top left, up 1, he is the blue Terran aLive.
Also, just for the folks here today, we do have a prize. It's a Rainer figurine signed by myself and Zombie Grub that we're going to be giving away to the best cheerful. So if you guys haven't taken a moment, over on the far side by the entrance, we do have a bunch of papers and markers set out. So make your cheerfuls. Later on, we'll have you all bring them to the back of the, I guess, the stream, the camera, and we'll pick our favorites.
Yeah.
Winner will get a Rainer figurine with our signatures.
Yeah, and if you really hate our signatures, you could always get them signed by the pros that are here and hate. You know.
I got a Pikachu. I tweeted earlier. I got all the players to sign it. You guys too. I'm very happy about it.
Yes, that's what you made us sign, a Pikachu.
Nerdy mementos.
Yeah. So the other like nice, interesting things about this map, besides the eventual like mid-game like tussle back and forth, is also how people expand. And I think it's kind of like been solid for like the past couple of weeks now with how Terran will usually expand. Zerg as well. Like they've kind of figured it out. Terrans actually usually don't take that like left side pocket base. I feel in TVZ they take the one on the low ground, which looked so suspicious when you first saw Abyssal Reef. And then Terrans did it, and I was like, well, maybe that's the thing to do. And then, you know, that's what happened. It's still a little bit personal preference, so aLive maybe takes that left base, but you take that. I even saw a Terran take the bottom left base. Like, it can be, obviously not as a third base, like the fourth and fifth, rather. But it can be actually really interesting how you play this map with your expansions, which is another cool feature of it, but the coolest feature by far, the Cloud Shark. So.
Yeah, the one you can never actually see unless it bugs out and just gets stuck in your camera.
Yeah.
Get that shadow going.
Oh, it's like the Overlord's chasing it. Run!
Now it's running away, yeah. The Marines are going to kill the Overlord, though, so rest in pepperonis. You usually expect a Reaper. For Snute, I would say 9 times out of 10, you can just get away with floating the Overlord.
Yeah.
But this is a pretty big tell in itself, like realizing there's no Reaper in play. He saw, I believe, I'm hoping saw the edge of that command center.
Even if he didn't, I mean, what is it going to be?
He knows. Yeah.
Build-ups with 2 Marines. And
I don't know, some sort of weird 5 racks
He actually proxied the 5 racks and sent 2 Marines home to stop the Overlord. That would actually be super sick. I should do that.
That would be some meta stuff. It wouldn't work, but I think it'd be pretty cool to see. Regardless, though, it is that you don't have to sweat about a Reaper, so you can really get away with drones. You don't have to invest in more than these initial lings. And these ones are going to run across the map. I don't know how much these will do, though.
They're going to have speed. Like, this is like the panic moment for Terrans where they see 6 speedlings coming into their base, and they're like, well, that's not too bad, but what if they have 20 more on the way?
Yeah, it's that what if. That's a big, scary factor.
Yeah, so especially with the 2 Marines he got, that obviously lived. They actually just got the Overlord. He should be fine to defend against that. And Snute's, I mean, if he probably wants to scout, so actually might still send them in. And it's going to be a surprise to see a Widowmine. Yeah, he definitely saw it.
Oh,
split for it. Those quick reflexes.
Widowmine also just had a terrible shot locked in, I think, regardless.
Oh, either way. All right, so
Oh,
he
he gets
knows.
an SCV with that too. That one Ling, the no health, got killed, but took an SCV with him.
Yeah, just seeing that Widowmine already tells him that it's not the 2-on-1 again. So, I mean, it's a little interesting to see a Widowmine opener in TVZ, but certainly they do happen. And then he follows up with Hellions, really. So this is just going to be like a lot of early, like, you know, left, right, front, center, and Snute might get a little boggled here.
Well, I was wondering if okay, so it's gonna be a Raven too to go with this.
What?
I was wondering though if this was gonna be an armory instead of the Raven for the gas cost to make that Hellbat push or something, but Hellions are just there you go. Because Hellions are such a weird thing to see this production cycle with.
Yeah, but we certainly have seen, I mean, maybe it was Key, maybe it was aLive, maybe it was someone else do this, because we were talking about how the Raven has basically made itself into all the matchups. Like, good job, Raven, you did it. This shouldn't do a whole lot. Yeah, the scorecard's even on the way. But if you can wait for the point defense drone, it's not as cool as it used to be, but that'll help with the Queen fire on your medevac so they can heal the Hellbats a little bit longer. The auto turrets honestly are like so useful now. It used to be that you didn't talk about the auto turrets, talk about the point defense drone, but now it's like the opposite. So
they need to rename the auto turret with its new damage, like the Terminator turret or something like that. I mean, it kills everything in its path.
Yeah, and well, clearly aLive is still planning on going bio after this. He's getting Sim.
Ooh, I like this. Snute's random Ling, not so random, was intentionally up here to scout, and he will see that medevac. He also sees the Hellions with those Lings. These two Lings did such a good job scouting.
They did. Yeah, the very few Lings have done a great job scouting, and hopefully he recognizes, like, you don't just make Hellions like this and not even, like, use them until there's already 6 of them and just not expect Hellbats. So, unfortunately, he doesn't really have, like, that good, amazing answer of Banelings or Roaches, but enough Lings and Focus Fire. Wow, Focus Fire.
Focus Fire, nice.
On the medevac will help out a lot.
Some 420 dank memers out there who appreciate that.
Here come the Hellbats on the third base. Maybe not what Stu was expecting. His drones are pulled, though, so he's going to lose his Queens, which is still some damage done. Only 4 drones go down in the main.
The fact that he's got to pull off a mining at 2 different bases at the same time, though, look at that income drop in the bottom right. Like, it's just less than 1,000 now while this goes on. He's still not transferring back anytime soon. He's got to deal with these Hellbats first.
But they are being dealt with. Like, they're even going to be taken out. No chance to go into Hellion mode and roll out. So, while this does interrupt mining and a host auto turret gets more drones than the Marines on the main base. That still is, like, aLive had, you know, his stim is finishing up. Like, that's okay, but obviously not combat shields, not his upgrades. Stu is going to have his power-up time. You know, he's going to be able to drone really hard. He's going to be able to get his upgrades. They're still going to be behind aLive. And I'm still, like, questioning what upgrades are going to be, because it was around this time, actually, that he threw them the Roach Warren as well and still went 2 Roaches.
9 of the 10 kills this game have been by that Raven, by the way.
It's amazing, Raven.
Those turrets are really good. But it's funny you brought up, like, they have been brought back into the matchup, but it does feel solely for auto turrets. We always talk about the potential for point defense drones and otherwise, and nobody's used Secret Missile since Legacy the Void changed them. But auto turrets are so powerful, and I almost wish the Raven was even toned back a bit. Like, it actually is so ridiculous how much it can get done in those, what is it, like 6 or 7 seconds that the auto turret's alive. Yeah,
well, I hate, like, double Raven, like tank, or tank pushes.
Yeah, watching innovation in play is infuriating, like, without a doubt.
So Snute did get 2 evolution chambers. I wondered if he was only going for the Carapace, but he adds on that +1 missile. He is good, like, decent amount behind the upgrades of aLive, especially if aLive's, like, really good on his armory time. Well, obviously he already has an armory, so it should be good. And there's 2 too. Then that's okay. But I wonder, like, I'm kind of hoping that Snute goes back to what we usually see from Snute, which is the infestation pit, super quick, and there it is.
I think the problem is we watched a lot of distractive tactics come down on Snute's side of the map, so it looked like he was kind of, like, caught in a bit of a razzle, but it's not a problem here. He actually is on course, so to speak. He's on 74 drones. He's on that 4th base, and with the infestation pit coming out, aLive has an army out, but this one isn't 20 supply up like last time.
Yeah, it shouldn't be nearly as bad. I mean, even then, again, like, those infestors, had they not died, could have been enough to hold on and, you know, get into hive and whatnot.
Well, so that game, by the way, brings back that question for me about the importance of the energy upgrade, where most people say it's just not worth it unless you're making a ton of infestors. That last game, had he been able to instantly fungal instead of being like 3 seconds away, could have been a game-changing difference.
Yeah, it could have. Wouldn't drop just in case they could get a couple of drones. They actually might. Nope, no, not even that one popped.
That seemed like it should. Well, that's doing a nice spin. That got like soccer kick to space. I'm surprised that didn't actually go off though. Those both look like they should have shot something.
Yeah, that other one's pretty healthy, but oh well.
I like this wall out of aLive too. It's not the sturdiest wall of all time, but this just prevents Banelings from rolling in for free, which happens a lot on this map.
Yeah, once they figure out that you've taken this base, it's like a really good pressure point. So, okay, so the fast infestation pit does lead to a really fast hive, which I think is totally fine. on this map, and aLive is going to be a bit on a timer, but it looks like he's going to give up on the idea of the timer. And this is something that aLive has done before, which, yeah, you could try and like basically 3-base all in until it works, and then you're all out of money. And that sometimes is fine, but a lot more Terrans have gotten a lot more comfortable with actually adding on that 4CC, the Fusion Core, the Starport. I mean, aLive is doing this so quickly. I'm not sure he actually scanned the main, but maybe he did. Maybe he just knows that's how Snute's going to play. He's super comfortable just going right into that late game. I mean, he's just going to try and pressure that Raven, still doing damage.
This thing's up to 16 kills. Now, even if some of those are legs, it doesn't matter. That's still 16 kills for free energy-based units.
Yeah.
Feels Swarm Host, man.
Yeah. Big drop in the main base for Medevacs worth is kind of scary.
It certainly is, and Snute's not going to have an easy path to get back there. Keep in mind, these infestors still aren't exactly locked and loaded, so this is going to do quite a bit of damage, whether it's trading for army or drones or otherwise. Drop goes back here. It's a little bit distracting, but this is the focus point. Well, there's there's a nice run by up here too.
Yeah, I think it was a run by Ash. Just walked up down there. So he's getting drone damage done, but to be honest, I feel like even if he got 20 drones right now, it wouldn't actually be that devastating. Snute is at 4 bases, so no need to invest in another hatchery, and would probably rake them pretty quickly. And aLive, again, as I said, like he's going to the 4th base, the Liberators, maybe even a Ghost Academy eventually. I was noting that he didn't get +2 armor, which I'm pretty sure was a mistake. Like it was supposed to be timed out with his +2.
Yeah.
But that, you know, gotta live with it now.
Snute just finished getting Burrow, by the way. I like this a lot. You got those drops coming in, and now aLive's going to have to at least scan for them. Except for the Raven one, because, you know.
He's so fed up with that Raven, man, and he can't take care of it.
Yeah, look at these Spore Cores. I love it. But even then, the Spore Core is going to die to auto-turns if he does it right. But Liberator range coming out, and Liberators can be a big part of the matchup, but I think if done correctly, the Ravagers are just better than Liberators.
It's I like the late game TVZ this scenario much better than, for instance, the PVZ that we see sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like if the Protoss beats you to the late game air, it's like the Zerg just feels like they're kind of out of luck. Now TVZ late game, Ultra, Broodlord versus Ghost, Liberator, Bite, like whatever you get seems to be still a determination. Like you have better positioning, you have the better, you know, bank, you had the better harassment. Like it actually is really entertaining to watch, and they're both just kind of like they went there without much of a mid game. aLive's been trying obviously with his drops, but also been, you know, banking and getting his 4th base.
Nice scan stick of those tumors. This Raven though.
Raven.
I want to know if this next like auto turret drop works or not. I want to save enough energy to point defense drone and then auto turret, right? like just an absolutely F you to Snute for that defense.
Yeah, absolutely. aLive, as I said, like really playing that late game, man. He's even getting a 5th base already.
So this is where I start differentiating, I think, like Snute versus Nurchio style of playing the same strategy, where Nurchio like is much faster to get through the hive tech most of the time. So he's already got the ultras out and ready to roll, and he's fighting and scrapping the best he can. Snute plays it a bit slower and a bit more on the money side, so that he's got more money for set ultras later. And I think in this scenario, that's better. I like this a lot more. Oh, did the Raven finally die?
Aww.
Feels bad, man. I like this better though, because he's just gonna have more. Like he can afford the losses, whereas sometimes we watch Nurchio play the same style and he can't.
I don't believe Snute has an army on the left side, so this army of aLive maybe kind of scary.
And the creep spread's not here. I mean, if he dominates this army, then it might be worth, but it's not if he loses everything on this side. The infestation pit gonna get focused down maybe after the hatchery.
I think the infestation, well,
I think that would have been over the hatchery. I think even would be
like it was a little bit questionable for sure, but either one's a good pick off, and he even gets an ultra.
Kindness plating was only 7 seconds from finishing.
Yeah, exactly. That was nice. Snute really can't chase the other army off creep anyways. Like he still is in the kind of defensive mode.
That's interesting. He's targeting firing the bio in 2 different fungal spots now instead of the medevacs, which I'm wondering if that's just a range thing or if that's a desperation thing.
That might have just been I'm doing a billion things thing.
Yeah.
We'll have to check next time.
The thing with the things.
Yeah, exactly. There are more command centers on the
3
way.
3 of them just finished.
This is what we kind of, not quite what we saw on Proxima Station from him, but it's more of a game you would expect on Proxima than Abyssal, because even though Abyssal's a big map, it still usually has a very strong mid-game play to it into kind of a late game, but not like super late game. But like these command centers, some of them are going to turn to orbitals probably, but they're also going to be taking planetaries to the bottom left and the bottom or top right.
Well, so actually he did make 2 of those into orbitals, and I think that's a really smart move at this point. Not because the mules are money. aLive's got money. He needs scans for all these burrows and other annoying things.
Scans for sure. I also just noticed that Snute might not have noticed this. So like I think a big problem that happens in like Zerg play in general is like you think you're going to remax a billion times, and then you just realize you've lost 20 drones about, and you don't have that much of a bank. He's only at 48 drones, and I'm not sure if that that might be too low too quickly.
I think with how much this base has been contested, it's less about the drones, it's more there's nowhere to mine from comfortably.
Yeah, like Snute, I mean, he has a bank and he has a good army, and he's still able to afford to go to his tier 3, all of his tier 3, and that's that's fine. It's just aLive is kind of beating him out in the economic game if he's able to deny this base.
Here on the right side, I mean, he does get that drop in, and it's a little annoying to deal with. 10 drones go down, so even less than what we talked about moments ago. But
I mean, this is usually the opposite problem, man. Usually Terran's when we're like, well, look at that supply. He doesn't have enough SCVs. Oh my God, it's the biggest army ever.
Actually,
that's happening for Snute.
My argument would be, though, if this still sits on 200, it'd be a problem for aLive because he's going to have less army for it.
That's what I mean. Like, usually it's Terran that has this huge army because they're giving up SCVs for mules, which is what they're supposed to do. But it's actually Snute who, either by choice or not realizing just how much mining he doesn't have, has about 30 army supply lead.
Oh, we got Corruptors coming out now, so this should help deal with those Liberators, which are being kind of pesky. But Snute, you know, he's got armor upgrades, which is great. But these Ultras, honestly, not hitting that hard with the melee weapons. He had, lost that Evo Chamber, starts it again.
Ooh,
but
Medivacs.
what I'm sad about is he did invest into Adrenal Glands, and I think with those melee weapons, he was probably looking more towards Lings and less towards being forced to use Ultras and Corruptors.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing you do, especially on a map like Abyssal Reef, but any long-term game is going to be those Ling run buys. You know, they're pretty cheap. When they're fully upgraded, they're amazing. They take down planetaries, but they don't react fast enough. And certainly, they're going to stop the Terran from taking those, like, kind of pseudo-hidden orbitals that they think they're going to get away with. They're just like 5 Lings take care of that.
That's kind of annoying. He just lost both his Overseers, so he's got to tread lightly for a moment.
The Corruptors, I guess, to note, are a little speedier, so they're swimming along quite fast there.
I like this, though. That's 5 Infestors, 4 of which are basically full energy. So there's a lot of fungals here. And honestly, I don't know. There's not enough Medivacs. The fungal growth alone and still
my God,
army.
no.
Huge fungals come down on top of aLive. He's going to lose so many of these Corruptors, whether he wants to or not. And Snute's just going to truck on through. Snute doesn't come through with an army that I think is going to A-move to win, but he just took a devastatingly good fight on top of very expensive units you cannot easily replace.
Dang, that was really good. This entire game was about aLive building up his Liberator count. Now I think he's at 3 starports. He'd be able to rebuild them eventually.
Well,
with the Corruptors already on them, and aLive might have just lost the game.
It's not the Liberators. He spent so much time building Liberators. He didn't have Medivacs. There was no Medivacs to heal that bio once they were fungled. Same problem here once again. And those Corruptors could just start pissing on buildings if they want.
Snute did not have that much of a bank, though, and he did just lose 16 more drones. So while this looked like really bad as he moved to the natural, maybe into that main base,
oh my God,
where Terran falls.
Liberators are so good.
Doesn't really have a lot. I think he might have just canceled a couple of units. In fact, oh well.
Yeah, well, aLive canceled them for him.
Yeah.
So you're not totally wrong.
Yeah, but Snute, I mean, he actually kind of needs 1,000 minerals to remake about 30, 40 drones, man. Like, actually, Snute might have just over-dedicated way too extreme and lost the game on his side.
That's really interesting, because that looked like that was going to be the game-winning push. That looked like that was going to go to aLive's main and end it all there. But being drawn back like this, the drone count not being where it was, having taken so many losses, it is still worth noting, though, resources lost in general, as we can see, Snute winning that game hardcore.
Yeah. And these Liberators, like, most of them died on the front line. It's like the 3 that were paired off that are, like, doing amazing work. More drones going down. Snute did very quickly invest that money into more drones, but that still only brought him up to like an okay amount, like not even that great.
Terrans, save the day!
Now his army is really hurting for it as well. He's down 40 army supply as aLive had 5 bases, consistent income, a bank. All he needed was a bit of time to use his production facilities, and Snute having to retreat did that.
Did he ever get to Greater Spire, Nate?
So.
No, so it's just regular Spire. I was wondering about these Corruptors, because they're floating around with almost no health. It'd be really nice to turn those into Broodlords, obviously, but I don't know how much of an engagement they can even take. And if he's relying on those Corruptors for anti-air, he might not be able to rely on them when they're all so low. But we finally do have some Medivacs out of aLive, which is nice. So we'll be able to take some of this damage, we'll be able to heal some of these stims. But it's still a lot of fungal growths.
Yeah, Snute's down 30 army supply. The Infestors, there's 1 or 2 more fungals left over here.
I feel like a good fungal paired up with not corrosive bombs, but a couple of ultralist swipes could kill most of this army if it's clumped.
This is pretty difficult. Like, he absolutely needs a space. He is starting to recover from that earlier, just like lack of drones and lack of money. But this is a tough position to break. The Liberators?
Yeah, the Corruptors tried to go on the right side on their own. That was a last-second transfuse. That was nice. They were trying to go on the right side to take care of those Liberators, but he's just got to give up the base. It's not going to be worth holding on to.
Yeah, and he kind of needs that because once you lose this base, if you have this base, that's you don't.
Oh, he's giving away everything. Snute's about to lose all of his income.
This is just going to be like
gonna
break
base
it
trade?
now and try and overwhelm him once again
Nice
and actually
fungals.
end the game.
Really good fungals on top of that
Yeah,
army.
or base trade, but it's so hard to base trade a Terran that has Liberators and Planetaries.
And can just lift everything else, too.
You know, yeah, if it's a real base race for sure. He's going to kind of come in from different angles, but it's a little choppy.
Like, he takes a good chunk. Like, he's actually taking
Yeah.
great trades versus aLive, but at the end of the day, he doesn't even have high ground vision. The Overseers aren't in his position. He can't get those Liberators. He can't even see them.
The Corruptors came in. That's what he was trying to do with like the left side army.
But you know
It's-
what?
It's not bad.
He bled out so many Marines. There's actually nothing here to stop this.
This is going to be worth, I think, losing. But if he loses all the Corruptors, it's not worth. If he lost like 3 Corruptors, I think that'd be worse. So
Yeah, he's trying to take the fight on the bottom side and hope the Marines would, I guess, get distracted, but they didn't. And while Snute might still take a decent fight, that army supply, the fact that there's been no mining going on for the last minute of this siege up, like, this is tough for aLive. And how many Crystal Palaces did he use on that one Widow Mine?
I don't know, but I think he holds an overseer for it.
Yeah, that's what it looked like.
Oh, Snute's probably feeling the pressure now. Once you're down below 100 supply in this game, like it's
GG.
It's really good.
All right, so aLive takes a 2-0 lead and puts Snute on his last life. That's it's a little bit tough.
Yeah.
It's a little bit tough.
Just best of 5. Gotta remember. after the
Oh,
best of 7s.
what's going on over
fuck?
here?
All right.
Yo, give me a high five. Hey. All right, so we got to tap out for Nathanias. I don't really have plans for this. You want just rock, paper, scissors for who observes?
All right.
Okay, loser observes. Best of 1. You ready? Rock, paper, scissors. No. On. Okay.
You said on 3, but then you
Okay.
said rock paper scissors. My bad.
Rock, paper, scissors. Rock, paper, scissors. Okay. I'll go observe. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned. We're going to play a small break, and we'll get back. It'll be Nathanias and Zombie Grub. See you soon.
Welcome back, everybody. We're getting to what could be the last game of the series. Snute versus aLive. aLive looking quite good with a 2-0 lead. We're about to get into the third game. It's going to be on Belshire, but first we wanted to mention the giveaway. So hashtag Ting Open down below.
Do it.
Tell us who you're cheering to win. Cheering to win. For the finals, you can win a Moto G4 Plus, which sounds like a very fancy phone. I don't know much about phones.
Winning free
but
stuff is always awesome.
That's true.
It doesn't
Even if
matter
it was like
what
a
it
Nokia
is.
6, you know, like you just like still like you'd sell that, you know, as a brick.
You're like, you've got a phone. Well, now you've got one you can watch StarCraft on while you're doing your other stuff.
That's true. Yeah, exactly. So
Multitasking.
it's free, of course, and you can maybe get your tweet shown as well if it's really super awesome. But it looks like we're getting into the game finally. So I am now here with Nathanias, by the way.
Hello,
You
Zombie
didn't
Grub.
know who this guy was,
I was
and
doing
the dinosaur.
I was the excessively zoomed in observer for the last 2 games.
Yes, you were. No, you
I
didn't-
tried to find the shark. I failed. Could only find his shadow.
Yeah, well, you know, he's I don't know. He's actually not even there.
He's
so-
crafty.
He's a ninja.
I've
shark.
seen him before.
You
yeah.
have? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know you
we
could actually see him.
are loaded into Belshire Vestige. We have our red Zerg spawning in the top left, representing Team Liquid. He is down 2-0 in this best of 5. He is Snute.
And in the bottom right, as the blue Terran, he is aLive.
I don't think it's possible for the players to see it on that map, though. You have to do like the super zoom out, which I abuse
Ah.
liberally.
That's okay. I see what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Belshire is the map now. It is going to be Snute's last chance to start bringing this game back. He has not had like bad games per se, but I do
No.
feel like it is still a little bit off from the regular Snute.
It's been a very difficult series. Like that last game, everything looked super nice. He gets that big push going, and basically tunnel vision so hard on trying to kill
Yeah.
aLive that he doesn't realize that 2 Liberators siege up and kill every single
right?
drone that he has.
Like suddenly,
Man.
look back, 2 Liberators are the biggest bosses. I do wonder if he intentionally kept at a lower drone count than we usually see him, though, to have that bigger army, to have that huge push, or
Yeah.
if that was one of those accidents of like, oh, I didn't quite realize how low my drone count was. So I went to go remax, and I was kind of screwed out of the game. So the point is, we're not quite seeing Snute at that level of like unbeatable. Well, I made it to 80 drones, you didn't do anything about it, and now you're just gonna get like wrecked because I have creep spread everywhere and queens everywhere, and aLive's been doing a fantastic job pressuring and meeting him to the late game as well. Like last game, he was okay with a late game with Snute, which most people are a little scared to do.
Yeah, and so far in this series, what we've seen out of aLive in terms of that mid-late game is he's been loving the drops. The 2 medevac rush, okay, we see a lot of Terran players still do the 2-1-1, but he keeps going to the 4 medevac drop. We saw it on Honor Grounds, we saw it on Abyssal Reef, and he's been going a little bit less with the direct pushes, but whenever he does, he makes these little splinter offs. So he was hitting all 3 bases at once during his major attacks against Snute, He's been doing a very excellent job of spreading out his army and being very difficult to catch because Snute hasn't been playing around with fast Mutalisks or Corruptors or anything like that, which means aLive, well, there's not a lot to worry about as far as losing your medevacs goes.
Yeah. Tang with the Lings a little bit. Might be able to get even 2 of them here if he's really good. Gets that one. He's going to get this one. And maybe even 3. Okay. Well, the Lings are there just to wait and buy time for the Queen, so it's usually not too big of a deal, but it feels nice as a Terran player.
It's always nice to get the Lings.
Yeah, it feels so great. We got Hellions on the way as well as a Starport, so we might see another Hellbat attack, but not quite the same with that Raven. The Overlord actually ducks in and sees that because there's no Marines actually killing it this game.
Yep. So that's nice that he gets to see that it is a Hellion opening, and that comes back to the Reaper getting 2 of these Zerglings as well, because usually as a Terran player, you start to notice that when they do these standard builds, Ling speed finishes around the time that your Hellions come out. So getting a few of those Lings means the Reaper can stay on the map a little bit longer. You don't have to run it straight back, and now he's going to send it in. He'll be able to get the scout off. And most importantly, since he's opened Hellions, you really just want to make sure that there's nothing like a fast Roach Horn or anything that can actually deal with the Hellions. If you get hit with some weird Ravager timing or something like that, that's where the Hellion opener makes you very, very sad, man.
Yeah. The Hellions actually just run in here, trying to catch Snute really off guard. Almost worked. Almost. I have a Viking on the way, so I'm going to throw back to like the Pult Viking here. It seems to be becoming a little bit more popular with these guys, however. This is not the first time I've seen aLive go for that Viking, even though it seems kind of like, it can't be that useful, right? Consider how many drops he's been doing and how much better they would be if there's absolutely 0 Overlord coverage.
Yeah, this is an extremely conservative opening on the Terran side. You have the Hellions to get yourself the early map control. You know there's no fast Roaches coming. There isn't a crazy fast lair on the way. So you can kind of play ball. He'll get the extra barracks. It's not going to be some sort of mech build, but the Hellions give you that breathing room where you can get this third command center without worrying about being overwhelmed by Zerglings, assuming that your micro is on point. And then naturally, this Viking gets to deny some of the scouting. And it can always be frustrating for a Zerg because the last thing that you want is to get blindsided by something like another Hellbat push or even just not realizing fast enough that it's going to be a mech style or something else going on.
Yeah, in fact, I'm not sure the Overlord even saw that third base is going down, because that is the question when you see the Hellion openers. Like, is it a Hellbat? Or, okay, I saw the Starport, and
Hellion
that Starport's already a
Banshee.
little bit suspicious, too, because, like, they're... I would say, like, he could have been a little bit greedier. He could have gone for the 3cc after Factory, delayed that Starport further. But he didn't. He wanted the Viking, and Stu didn't know that initially, so he's probably a little bit worried. Now I think he realized what's going on. The Hellbats would have been coming in already, and he can actually drone pretty freely for a while, basically until that stim finishes.
And the other nice thing about that is because Snute doesn't know how, the level of greed that's being played here, there's no, incentive for him to go straight into a super aggressive push to try and punish this, because there really isn't a whole lot here. Just these Hellions are his scouting tool to help poke forward, see what's on the field, and the Viking is just there to deny. There is still one Overlord in the bottom left, but I think there's like a Ling or 2 running around, but he will maybe get that later on.
Yeah.
Roach Horn's coming down, the 1-1. He has been, as we've seen in this series so far, really sticking to his ranged build. I mean, those Ultralisks had +0 attack upgrades by the end of yesterday, or the last game.
Yeah, he does. It's always a question, though, of like when exactly the Infestation Pit comes down and if that means a fast hive. He could play a lot more emphasis on the Infestation Pit. That Viking had dreams.
People land the Viking against Zerg?
That's what I'm saying. He had ambition.
Okay. He almost got a drone.
I think it just would have been worth like, maybe getting an Overlord later. But
Just spread the Overlords out again.
well, so this is what a lot of Terrans have been doing lately. So this actually, funnily enough, just like what we've seen, has been more of a nuisance for the Terran than it is the Zerg. But if Snute takes that right side base, which he does, as I say it, it gives it a good jumping off point right from your reinforcement line, your defensive line to that fourth base.
It goes back to that heart of the swarm mentality. You always want to expand towards the Zerg's fourth. And I'd say that remains true, especially for Legacy of the Void, just because he is playing so aggressively and he wants to pull the army to the right side, get these big drops, and he has been using these drops so much. It's just these queens in here for now. Getting 1 or 2 of these would be huge to allow him to keep dropping all over the place, but even the drones already coming off.
Drone too much. He was at 78 drones, I believe, and his roaches were only just coming out. I think we just saw the classic Snute mistake, the one we were worried about really for the other game, so that wasn't the problem. Might be showing itself here. 23 drones, I believe Hellions are attacking that third base. They are. To be honest, okay, before we get all doom and gloom, Snute has recovered from being at 80 drones and losing 25 because he was at 80 drones in the first place, but this was not supposed to happen. I think Snute's going to be quite disappointed that he let that happen.
As far as coming back from behind against aLive goes, I think we saw Gumiho's matches yesterday prove that is totally possible.
That's true.
But the 2-2 is starting up, so aLive is still not missing a beat with this. He's getting that third base saturated. He's stepping forward in his tech and also clearing out the creep, which your queens are running all over the place. It's harder for them to push that. And then let's also remember this is all just the drop play. That fourth is still right next to the third base of the Terran player.
Yeah.
It's an extremely close rally path.
And really, it's mostly when the player's going noodling bling that we see that third base be a problem, because basically what it creates is like the shortest map possible. So whoever gets that momentum usually keeps the momentum. So either it's the fourth base of the Zerg going down or the third base of the Terran going down. But usually Snute's looking really for momentum when he goes roaches.
Yeah.
That first game was a little bit of an oddity, like I said. So he's usually playing very defensive, and he's just going to have to be, you know, right up against aLive's third base and have to just deal with that, and that's not going to be easy.
Even bringing this tank out all by its lonesome with a very low number of Marines. He has the drop on the left side. That is what we're talking about, that fourth base. It's just a stone's throw away from the third. Like, there's absolutely no way that you can defend it, especially when you're behind as a Zerg player. He has the links to stop the drop, but at what cost?
Yeah. Snute might just try and take that base off to the left side, but then that's just a little more susceptible to being dropped. Like, either way, Snute's kind of in a difficult position here, especially since his creep spread is not really stellar. You know, he's been defending against drops and Hellions, and I don't think he got as many as he usually does either. So he's a little bit in the dark with the Overlords being taken out as well, and this is still tough. He has managed to get back to 70 drones. He's gonna get this medevac just barely, and he does have even upgrades, so I see him holding for sure with good Corrosive Biles.
These Lings do get caught by the Marines. There's a good chunk of them trying to get some SCV harass in, but the 2-2 finishing up for both players. The Infestors are coming out, and Burrow. Of course, the Burrow's going to be super important to get these Infestors close enough to land those money fungals. We did see in that last game, we got to the point where he actually did get rid of all the medevacs, even though he had quite a few throughout that mid-game stage, and that is a very important part for being able to bring it back against Terran, as those armies can be healed up quickly. If those medevacs can build up energy, life gets extremely difficult for the Zerg player.
Yeah. No, of course, speaking of difficult, if you lose that fourth base, you also lose maybe a bit of scouting. He's going to lose the creeps right here, too. And if you let the Terran with tanks get into this position right here that aLive's trying to get to, there's a pretty good choke. Maybe to take down the Infestors while they pop.
Drones, there's nothing here to save them.
Yeah, Snute just had no idea that he was actually going towards that location, and that is bad news.
It's a byproduct of the creep spread being shut down, as you said, the fourth base being lost, and also all the Overlords being pushed away from the map at the start. He doesn't know. He gets completely caught off guard by this massive push, and the army that he has, how is it really supposed to deal with this anyway? Like, he's got just the 3 Infestors. He needs the most perfect fungals, and he's going to drop the first one. A lot of these Marines are still able to run around. He has the Force Teachings. The only thing that looks to be lacking, okay, the rest of the medevacs are all stuck on 1 Marine. But now that he has his whole army together, I mean, Snute just needs to attack this third, and it looks like what he wants to do is just bait the Terran into stimming back, catching him, and then getting the Corrosive Biles. So it's all going to be about hitting money, fungals, and biles to deal with this. But now the next army, because aLive is still macroing perfectly behind us and is at max supply, is ready to rock and roll to defend.
Yeah, his reinforcements are totally fine defending this, while the rest of the army basically initiates a base here that if something Snute will actually win. I mean, the chances are higher that the clump will be there for the Marines and that the Infestors will get the amazing fungal, but he's got to actually chase this army.
Yep, he has to come deal with this, and then we remember that unless he lands that fungal on the medevacs, lift up and fly away.
Now, this is a grim situation, not gonna lie, but Snute, surprisingly, still banking a little bit here. I guess it's part of that supply blocked,
The
but also
Infestors really want to grab those medevacs.
he managing to keep his drone count like decent at 53. He's only mining off of 1 base, so it's not really 53 drones.
Yeah,
but
I mean, it's like, okay, I'm holding your medevacs in this corner of the map, but you've got the rest of the map. And all my creep. And all my stuff.
I'm just gonna clear up all the creep that he had. This is
Those 4 tanks.
they're bosses.
Trying
They
to
should
reenact
siege.
Fury. The roaches
Yeah.
are coming to get them, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say they should try and siege and like, target fire the Infestors. Oh god. The Infestors were brought over here, but maybe that was aLive was thinking. Still, you know, we had that reinforcement line. That's like his main army that we saw first. This is the reinforcements we saw defending on the third base. They've now come into an even bigger army. His +3 attack is about to finish. He has that +1 big ones as well for the further tanks, and Snute just can't. I don't think he can split against this.
There's too much here. He's able to just perfectly pull him around. It's a benefit of this map at air distance to 2. Gets some decent fungals on the medevacs inside of the main base. A few of them are still alive, but then the tanks siege up. The Marines, the Marauders spread out, shutting down this left side base. And he's rebuilding where the third was. He's trying to rebuild where natural was. He just doesn't have anything. He's got a little bit of the minerals left from all this mining, but the mineral units aren't what's going to save this farm. It needs to be the Infestors. He needs the Infestors to make a play so that the follow-up can be gotten off of the Ravagers. Otherwise, he's just going to be dodging those Corrosive Biles all day long.
Where are all those Infestors, speaking of? He does find a bit of the army like that can tango, certainly, with these Ravagers, but I thought his defense was still alive. Maybe not. His Ravagers get all choked in. There are still tanks. SCVs are pulled. I don't think that was necessary, but aLive's like, I'm not taking any chances, man. Like, I got 4-0 by Gumi over this reason.
Very good point. He's trying to avoid the throws, as it were. One Marine blocking this base. The northeast and the natural base have been rebuilt. +3 armor is about to finish, though. And this upgrade advantage is so nice because the difference between this game and the last game, that follow-up tech is not there for Snute. And even though we don't have the massive Liberator range spam or anything like that, this is still an army that, as we all know, bio doesn't get old. It works. It just works, and it keeps working all game long.
It's pretty good. Pretty good unit composition, yeah. The 4th base is now heading down for aLive. That was the only concern I had, was that maybe he's like, why won't this guy die, and like runs out of minerals. But he does have his 4th base. He could always lift his main command center to the 5th. Snute's only just now really getting any presence on the map with these attacks, and even like this is pretty dangerous to do with roaches and a lot of them to the left side. That's not planetary, so aLive will have to give that up.
And there, Del Roach burrows underneath to block it. Drop is going to hit the northeast side. Drones, only a few of them picked up so far, but they cannot mine. They are on their way back. A few vials get thrown. Almost gets one of the medevacs, but he will be able to lift up and save a few of these, hitting a few of his roaches with those vials. The defensive siege tank with this bio force can deal with these roaches. Drops a scan, picks them off. No problemo so far for aLive.
Snute is crawling his way back into this game, man. It's like clinging on for dear life. He's got a 3rd backup. He's got a natural. He's got a 4th on the way. He is trying to squeeze in that hive. I mean, you know, key here is kind of like we actually had this game a long time ago on King Sedong Station where like Berserk player lost like hatchery left, right, left, right, left, like literally left, right. And we were just like, well, Berserk's not dying. What is this? And it's because the army wasn't trading. And that's kind of what happened here. Snute actually managed to save most of his original army from the initial time he got maxed out. So he's not been replacing that. He has just actually been replacing his hatcheries. So he's found the minerals go into a greater spire potentially.
The thing is, like, the Ravager utility is endless. With the amount of damage that comes out of the Corrosive Bio and the Fungal, there's always a chance in one of these scenarios where you can knock down that Terran 4th or 3rd, but with these Siege tanks defensively postured, he just needs to be so careful. The medevacs all get hit by that Fungal. Quite a few of them taken down by the Corrosive Bile, but this spread, this arc for aLive allows these better upgraded units to destroy that Roach Ravager force.
GG! aLive takes the 3-0 successfully, despite Snute bringing it back. I mean, that was any other Zerg, like, loses his natural after 2 other bases go down. He's like, I guess that's it. But Snute played another 6 minutes, something like that, with, like, a decent army. Man, that bio gets pretty good with 3-3, so.
Yeah, in a series like that just gets to highlight some of the, you get to see some of the strengths of Snute, a lot of the strengths of aLive, but just a few of those things not being, you know, as good as you would normally expect them to be, leads to what can look like some pretty ugly trades that end up happening. Yeah. I still think back to the Abyssal Reef game and how differently that could have been if there was anything that could have stopped those 2 Liberators from killing 36 drones while he was pushing into aLive's natural.
Yeah, that would have been a lot more bang. That would have been a successful like transition or greater spire potentially. Like. Yep. That was it was a good game. It was a good series, and of course that was the 3rd place match. So I believe we actually have the prize pool now. Snute gets $250, and aLive gets $750. Pretty nice little difference there.
Cheeky $500 for winning a best of 5. Not bad.
Yeah, not bad, not bad. But this is of course leading up to the grand finals, best of 9 between Gumio and Neeb. That is coming up very soon. The winner of that will get $2,500. Not so bad there. These guys have played each other before. I don't believe that was actually recently updated.
I got to, I believe I was there with you guys for the cast
you
of
were,
that Gumio
yes.
Neeb match. Neeb got thrashed. He's looking for revenge.
I'm wondering if maybe Lilac didn't update or something, because like that actually should be probably Gumiho 4, Neeb 1. I'm not sure when Neeb got that one actually, but yeah, he did get thrashed. Like it was a 3-0 Gumiho Neeb, and that is why Neeb has this historic run now. If he did manage to win, he's not even supposed to be here. He lost in the Ting round of 16, guys, but then he was brought back. Actually, the round of 8.
Tragically, Stats was so good at StarCraft that he made it to the GSL. Like it was everyone was very sad that Stats was actually such a god that he made it to the GSL finals.
Yeah.
That he actually cannot teleport between 2 places like a Protoss. So you guys ran the bracket, all the players that didn't make it, and that's how Neeb made it here.
Yep. Exactly. So it would be a cool storyline. Of course, it is Ting and Ting Neeb. Like, it would be pretty cool. But guys, we're gonna get that match set up in about take a 10 to 15 minute break. The audience, if you guys haven't smelled it or seen it, there's pizza right there. Well, I guess you guys somewhere right over there. And it is free for you guys to eat, so go back there, get free pizza. For the online audience, sorry, no pizza for you.
We cannot send pizza through the stream. It's against Twitch terms of service. We're sorry.
Yeah, of course, I wish. But yeah, so 10-15 minute break, and then the live best of 9 finals between Gumiho and Neeb. See you guys in a bit.